The food court of Station Helix smelled like 1,000 worlds colliding, but only one stall served breakfast the way Earth remembered it. Owen Blake had been flipping eggs in silence for 3 years, ignored by aliens who considered his cooking primitive, his ingredients barbaric. But when a small Kalari child screamed at the sight of his omelet pan, calling his craft murder, the galaxy's culinary elite took notice. And what they discovered in the fold of a perfect French omelette would rewrite everything they thought they knew about nourishment, memory, and the civilization that taught the stars how to eat. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from, and if stories like this move you, hit that subscribe button because tomorrow's episode is even more unbelievable than this one. The food court of Station Helix stretches like a metal canyon, its ceiling lost in vapor and the glow of 10,000 advertisement holograms. Vendors shout in frequencies that rattle human eardrums. The air tastes of sulfur and citrus, and something sharp that might be joy or fear, depending on your species. At the farthest edge, where foot traffic thins and the lights flicker amber instead of cold white, a single human man stands behind a steel counter no wider than a bed. Owen Blake, chef. His apron hangs clean but faded, the logo of a restaurant long shuttered still visible in the weave. His hands move with the economy of someone who has cooked 10,000 meals and expects to cook 10,000 more without applause. The griddle before him hums, its surface seasoned to a dark mirror. He cracks 2 eggs against the rim of a blue ceramic bowl, the shells splitting clean, the yolks suspended in perfect twin suns. Around him, alien patrons flow like schools of fish, avoiding a stone. They do not look at him. To the Vrin with their crystalline taste buds, his food lacks dimensional flavor. To the Sok, with their osmotic digestion, his cooking is theater without nutrition. To the Kalari, elegant and silver-skinned, his ingredients are something worse. A small Kalari child stops mid-step, her bioluminescent freckles pulsing violet with distress. She points at the bowl in Owen's hands. Her voice rises, bright and horrified. "Unborn creatures," says Zira. Her guardian, a tall Kalari woman draped in refracted silks, pulls the child close. Hira's eyes narrow at Owen, disgust curling the edges of her lip. "Barbaric," says Hira. The word carries, amplified by the natural acoustics of the court. Heads turn. Vendors pause. A Vrin delegate leans closer, mandibles clicking in agreement. Owen does not respond. He whisks the eggs with a fork, the motion smooth and rhythmic, then pours them into a heated pan slicked with butter. The scent rises, rich and golden, utterly earthbound. "He cooks the young," says Zira, tears brightening her enormous eyes. Hira touches a comm device at her wrist. The child's distress has been logged, timestamp and location embedded. Within moments, the complaint uploads to the Galactic Culinary Sanctum's public monitoring grid. Owen flips the omelette with a practiced flick of the wrist. It lands softly, pale yellow against black steel. He slides it onto a plate, adds a sprig of something green he grows in a box beneath the counter, and sets it aside. No one orders from him. The plate will go cold, then into compost. But he cooks anyway, the way his late wife taught him. With care, with memory, with the belief that someone, someday, might understand. The court hums on, but something has shifted. The complaint travels faster than light. The summons arrives before Owen closes his stall for the night. A holographic seal blooms above his counter, spinning with authority that makes nearby vendors step back. The crest of the Galactic Culinary Sanctum, 3 spirals interlocked around a single flame, burns in the air like a brand. A voice speaks in sterile diplomatic tones, translated into 40 languages simultaneously. Owen Blake, human, Station Helix vendor registration 729. You are summoned to appear before the Sanctum Council to address grievances filed under Provision 18, Subsection 4. Preparation and distribution of nutritional matter deemed culturally or ethically incompatible with galactic standards. The message dissolves. Silence pools around Owen like spilled water. Kavik, Avrin, who sells crystallized spore cakes 3 stalls down, clicks his mandibles in something that might be sympathy or schadenfreude. Owen wipes down the griddle, his movements unchanged. He has been dismissed, mocked, avoided, but summoned. This is new. The sanctum sits at the heart of the station, a structure of black glass and living vines that pulse with chemiluminescent sap. It is where the galaxy's most revered chefs gather to decree what is cuisine and what is mere sustenance. Owen has never entered its halls. Humans are not invited. They are tolerated, employed, sometimes pitied, but never honored. He arrives at dawn, the station's artificial sun bleeding pink through the atmospheric filters. The entrance yawns wide, its doors carved from petrified wood, harvested from a world that died before Earth learned to farm. Guards in ceremonial armor flank the threshold, their faces hidden behind visors that reflect Owen's own tired expression back at him. Inside, the air tastes expensive. It carries notes of rare spices, distilled ethers, things that cost more than Owen earns in a year. The council chamber rises like an amphitheater, tiered seats curving around a central platform lit from above by a column of pure white light. Delegates fill the benches, their robes shimmering with rank and heritage. At the highest tier sits Archon Velis, ancient and draped in fabric that shifts colors with his mood. Currently, it swirls a deep, judgmental violet. Beside him, Inquisitor Wraith leans forward, her serpentine neck extending to study Owen like a specimen under glass. Her scales catch the light, each one etched with culinary accolades earned across 3 lifetimes. She does not smile. Her species does not possess the anatomy for it. Owen is led to the platform. The light presses down on him, warm and exposing. Hera stands at the petitioner's alcove, Zira clutched against her side. The child's freckles pulse a distressed amber. "You have been accused of preparing sentient precursors for consumption," says Archon Velis. His voice rumbles like stones grinding. "Eggs," the complainant claims. "Unborn creatures harvested and cooked without consent or ceremony." Owen meets the Archon's gaze. He does not flinch. He does not apologize. He simply nods once, acknowledging the accusation. Around him, the council leans forward, eager for his collapse. Archon Velis raises one long finger, and the chamber's light intensifies until Owen's shadow disappears entirely. The Archon's robes shift from violet to a cold, anticipatory silver. He gestures to a table that rises from the platform floor, smooth as a magician's trick. Upon it, a induction burner, a single pan, a bowl, and 3 pale eggs resting in a ceramic dish. "You will demonstrate," says Archon Velis. "Show us this craft you claim is cuisine, and not cruelty." Inquisitor Wraith's scales shimmer with satisfaction. Her voice carries the weight of someone who has already written the verdict. "You will prepare your primitive dish under sanctum parameters. No seasoning beyond salt. No garnish. No deception through presentation. Let the technique stand alone, if technique exists at all." Murmurs ripple through the tiers. A Vryn scholar leans toward his companion, mandibles clicking soft amusement. A Kalari diplomat covers her mouth, hiding either disgust or a smile. Hera holds Zira tighter, the child's eyes wide and fixed on the eggs as if they might hatch into accusation. Owen approaches the table. His boots sound too loud against the polished floor. He does not look at the council. He looks at the eggs, at the pan, at the tools laid out like an execution kit. The butter they have provided is real, he notes, not synthetic. Someone on this council knows enough to understand that detail matters. He picks up the whisk. It is lighter than the one he uses at his stall, balanced for a species with longer fingers. He adjusts his grip, testing its weight. The council watches, waiting for hesitation, waiting for him to falter. "Begin," says Velis. Owen cracks the first egg against the bowl's edge. The shell splits clean, yolk and whites sliding into porcelain with a sound like a whisper. He cracks the second, then the third. His movements are neither rushed nor slow. They exist outside of performance, in a space his late wife called the rhythm of care. He whisks with steady strokes, incorporating air without violence. The eggs pale, their texture shifting from distinct elements to unified whole. Behind him, someone scoffs. The sound echoes in the vaulted chamber. Owen sets the bowl down and turns on the burner. He adds butter to the pan, watching it foam and settle. The scent rises, rich and simple, utterly out of place in this hall of complexity and prestige. The butter sings against the heat, a quiet sizzle that fills the silence like a heartbeat. He pours the eggs. They spread across the pan's surface in a perfect circle, edges beginning to set almost immediately. Owen picks up a silicone spatula, another tool that feels wrong in his hand but will serve. He begins to work the eggs with small, deliberate movements, pulling set curds toward the center, tilting the pan to let liquid flow into empty space. The council leans forward despite themselves. Something in the motion holds them. The eggs move like silk across the pan's surface, gathering into soft folds that catch the light. Owen's wrist guides the motion, not forcing, not rushing. The heat does most of the work. He simply listens to it, responds to it, the way a dancer follows music only they can hear. His breathing slows. The council chamber fades. There is only the pan, the eggs, the butter's golden whisper. Inquisitor Wraith shifts in her seat, scales clicking against stone. He stalls, she says, hoping we will forget the barbarism of his ingredients. But Archon Velis raises a hand for silence. His robes have shifted again, no longer silver but a pale, curious amber. He watches Owen's hands, the way they move without hesitation, without doubt. There is something in the rhythm that tugs at memory, though he cannot place it. Owen tilts the pan, allowing the still liquid egg to flow beneath the curds. The omelette begins to take shape, not through force, but through patience. He works the edges gently, coaxing them toward the center, building layers upon layers. The texture transforms from wet to creamy, from separate to whole. A figure rises in the upper tiers. Keeper Nomis, an archivist from the outer libraries. His robes marked with the dust of 10,000 volumes. His eyes, multifaceted and ancient, fix on Owen's hands. He descends 3 steps, then 3 more, moving closer to the platform as if drawn by gravity. Those movements, says Nomis, his voice barely above a whisper. I have seen them before. The chamber stirs. Delegates glance at one another. Hira's grip on Zira loosens slightly, confusion replacing certainty. The child watches Owen now with fascination instead of horror, her freckles shifting from amber to a cautious green. Owen does not hear them. He reduces the heat, watching the egg's surface shift from glossy to matte. The timing is everything. Too soon and the omelette weeps, too late and it toughens. He learned this from Elena, who learned it from her grandmother, who learned it from a lineage that stretched back before the stars opened their doors to earth. He removes the pan from heat. With a single smooth motion, he tips it, allowing the omelette to roll onto itself. Once, twice, 3 times, each fold precise, each layer building on the last. The result rests on the pan's edge, pale yellow, flawless, steaming gently. Keeper Nomis reaches the platform's edge, hands gripping the rail. The 3-fold turn, he says, loud enough now for the council to hear. It is written in the Codex of Nourishment, the founding technique, lost for 7 generations. Silence drops like a curtain. Archon Velis stands, robes blazing gold with shock. Inquisitor Wraith's scales flatten against her skin, a reflexive response to information that contradicts everything she believed. Owen slides the omelette onto a plain white plate, perfect, complete, waiting. Keeper Nomis moves without permission, descending the final steps to the platform. Guards shift, uncertain whether to stop an archivist of his standing. Archon Velis does not object. The entire council has gone still, caught between disbelief and a curiosity sharp enough to cut. Nomis circles the table, his multifaceted eyes studying the omelette from every angle. He does not touch it. He does not need to. The shape speaks a language he has spent lifetimes learning to read. The Codex of Nourishment, he says, addressing the council now. Written by the Culinary Founders before the first sanctum rose. It describes 7 essential techniques, the root movements from which all galactic cuisine descended. Inquisitor Wraith finds her voice, though it carries less certainty than before. The Codex was destroyed in the Schism Wars. No copies survived. Fragments survived, says Nomis. Enough to know what was lost. He gestures toward the omelette, his hand trembling slightly. The threefold turn. Gentle heat. Patience over speed. The building of texture through repetition, not force. I have read the descriptions 1,000 times. I never thought to see it performed. Owen stands to the side, spatula still in hand, watching these strangers argue over something Elena taught him on a Sunday morning in their kitchen, sunlight slanting through cheap blinds. Their daughter, still asleep in the next room. He remembers her hands guiding his, her voice soft with instruction. Low and slow, she had said. You're not conquering the eggs. You're helping them become what they want to be. Ambassador Thren rises from the middle tier, his crystalline form refracting light into rainbow fragments. If this human possesses founder techniques, we must know how. Such knowledge does not appear randomly. Archon Velis descends from his seat for the first time in living memory. The council gasps. He approaches Owen directly, robes shimmering through confusion, wonder, suspicion, settling finally on a deep, respectful blue. Where did you learn this? Says Velis. Owen meets his gaze. My wife taught me. And where did she learn? Her grandmother, and hers before that. The simplicity of the answer strikes harder than any grand revelation. Nomis closes his eyes, understanding dawning across his features. Lineage. He breathes. Not through institutions. Not through academies. Through family. Through care, passed hand to hand across generations. Hera's voice cuts through, still defiant but wavering. This proves nothing. He cooks unborn creatures regardless of technique. Zira pulls away from her mother's grip, taking 3 small steps toward the platform. Her freckles pulse a brilliant, curious gold. May I taste it? Says Zira. The chamber erupts. Delegates shout over one another. Inquisitor Wraith hisses objection. But Archon Velis raises both hands, and silence falls like snow. He looks at Owen, then at the child, then at the omelette resting perfect and pale on its white plate. Yes, says Velis. Let the child decide. Hera moves to block her daughter, but Archon Velis steps between them. His presence carries the weight of centuries, of authority even a mother cannot dismiss. The child asked, says Velis. In matters of nourishment, the innocent palate speaks truth the educated have forgotten. Zira approaches the table, her small frame dwarfed by the platform's scale. She looks up at Owen, freckles shifting through colors he cannot name. Fear and curiosity war across her luminous features. Owen crouches, bringing himself to her eye level. He cuts a small portion from the omelette's edge with a clean fork, making sure to include all 3 layers. Steam rises from the interior, still creamy, still warm. He offers the fork. Zira hesitates, her fingers hovering. Around them, the council holds its collective breath. Keeper Nomis clutches his robes. Inquisitor Wraith's scales have gone completely flat, colorless. Ambassador Thren leans so far forward his crystalline body creaks. Zira takes the fork. She studies the bite, turning it in the light. Then, with the solemnity of a child performing a dare, she places it in her mouth. Her eyes widen. The freckles across her face explode into patterns, gold bleeding into rose, bleeding into violet, colors that cascade like aurora. Her pupils dilate. A sound escapes her throat, not words but pure sensation translated to breath. She takes a step back, fork still in hand, staring at Owen as if seeing him for the first time. It tastes like safety, says Zira. The words land with impossible weight. Hera gasps. Several delegates rise from their seats. Keeper Nomis presses a hand to his chest, his breath catching. Because safety is not a flavor, It is not a chemical compound detectable by taste buds. It is something deeper, something the founders wrote about in passages most scholars dismissed as poetry rather than technical instruction. Emotional resonance through preparation, says Nomis, his voice thick. The Codex claimed the founders could encode feeling into food through intention and technique. We thought it metaphor. Zira takes another bite without asking permission. Her freckles settle into a warm, constant gold, the color Kalari children show only when held by parents they trust. Tears stream down her face, bioluminescent and shimmering. It tastes like being tucked in, like morning songs, like someone who will not leave. Hira's legs give out. She sits hard on the platform's edge, hands covering her mouth, because her daughter has not felt safety since her father disappeared beyond the Veil Nebula 2 years ago. The child has worn armor made of fear ever since, and a human's cooking has somehow reached through it. Archon Velis turns to Owen, and his robes blaze pure white, the color of reverence reserved for the dead and the divine. "What are you?" says Velis. Owen picks up the whisk, still flecked with egg. A father who cooks for his daughter's memory. The council erupts into chaos. Delegates shout across tiers, demanding answers, explanations, proof. Inquisitor Wraith descends from her seat, scales flickering through agitation. She points at Owen with a trembling claw. Emotional manipulation is not cuisine. It is chemistry, psychology, perhaps even illegal neural interference. But Zira stands between them, small and fierce, her freckles burning gold. He did not manipulate anything. He just cooked like someone who cares. Keeper Nomis pulls a device from his robes, a scanner that measures molecular composition and trace energies. He passes it over the remaining omelette, the readings projecting into the air above the table. Chemical compounds appear in flowing script. Proteins, fats, minerals. Nothing unusual, nothing artificial. Then deeper readings emerge, measurements most scanners do not register. Harmonic resonance in the protein structure, says Nomis, voice shaking. The eggs were worked at a rhythm that matches Kalari cardiac frequency. The butter was heated to the exact temperature that triggers childhood food memory across 17 known species. The folds. He pauses, checking the readings again. The folds create surface tension patterns identical to the mathematical sequences found in parental bonding behaviors. Coincidence, says Wraith, but her voice has lost its edge. Across 43 data points, says Nomis. Impossible. Archon Velis raises his hand, and silence falls with the weight of gravity. He looks at Owen, robes still blazing white. You said your wife taught you. Who taught her? Owen sets down the whisk. He has not spoken this much in years, has grown accustomed to silence and dismissal. But something in the Archon's tone demands honesty. Her grandmother was a keeper, Earth's culinary archives, before the evacuation. When humanity joined the galactic community, we were told our food had no place among the stars. Primitive, unsophisticated. The archives were abandoned. Not abandoned, says a voice from the upper tiers. Ambassador Thren stands, light refracting through his crystalline form. Destroyed. I was there when the Council of Integration voted. We feared human cuisine would contaminate established traditions. The word hangs like a blade. Contaminate. Owen has heard it before. Whispered behind hands at the food court. Spat by vendors who resent his presence. But hearing it from an ambassador, stated as policy rather than prejudice, cuts differently. My wife's grandmother saved what she could, says Owen. Recipes, techniques, the reasons behind them. She taught my wife. My wife taught me. Before she died, she made me promise to keep cooking, to remember that feeding someone is an act of love, not just nutrition. Zira moves closer to Owen, her small hand reaching for his. He looks down, surprised. She looks up, freckles pulsing gentle warmth. Your daughter must have loved your cooking very much, says Zira. Owen's throat tightens. He nods once, unable to speak. Around them, the council begins to understand what they have lost. Keeper Nomis moves with sudden urgency, his fingers dancing across a holographic interface that blooms from his wrist device. Archives unfold in the air, ancient documents flickering past in streams of light. He searches with the desperation of someone who has spent a lifetime looking for something they did not know was missing. The council watches, delegates leaning forward. The chamber silent except for the soft chime of data sorting itself. "Here," says Nomis, freezing a document mid-scroll. It expands, filling the space above the platform. Faded text in 17 languages, Earth's English prominent among them. A treaty signed 347 years ago. The Integration Accords, subsection 9, Cultural Preservation. Ambassador Thren's crystalline form darkens. He knows what comes next. Nomis reads aloud, his voice carrying to every tier. All member species retain the right to archive and practice ancestral traditions, including culinary heritage, provided such practices do not violate sentient rights protocols. He looks up, multifaceted eyes blazing. Earth's culinary traditions were protected by galactic law. The destruction of the archives was illegal. Gasps ripple through the chamber. Inquisitor Wraith sits down heavily, her scales flushing gray. Archon Velis's robes shift through colors too quickly to name, settling finally on a deep, troubled indigo. "There is more," says Nomis, pulling another document forward. This one is older, its edges degraded by time. A passenger manifest from the colony ship that brought the first humans to Station Helix. He magnifies a single name, Elena Corvus Blake. Registered occupation, culinary keeper. Heritage class. Owen closes his eyes. He has not seen that designation in years. Elena never used it, never claimed status. She cooked in their tiny apartment, taught him in whispers and demonstrations, treated every meal like a prayer to something the galaxy had tried to erase. "Your wife was legally recognized as a heritage keeper," says Nomis. "Which means you, as her surviving spouse and trained successor, hold that title now." "I hold a spatula," says Owen quietly, "and a lease on a food court stall that barely pays rent." Keeper Nomis descends the final step to the Mund platform, standing before Owen with a reverence that makes the human uncomfortable. "You hold the threefold turn. You hold harmonic preparation. You hold the ability to encode care into sustenance. The foundation of everything the Culinary Founders built before we forgot why we cooked at all." Hera rises from where she collapsed, moving to her daughter's side. She looks at Owen, disgust replaced by something fragile and new. Shame, perhaps, or recognition. "I called you barbaric," says Hera. Owen meets her gaze. "You were protecting your child. I understand." Zira squeezes his hand tighter. "Will you teach me?" says Zira. Before Owen can answer, Archon Velis speaks, his voice resonating through the chamber with the weight of an edict. The sanctum has failed in its sacred duty. Archon Velis descends the remaining steps until he stands on the platform itself, an act without precedent in the sanctum's 700-year history. His robes settle into a color Owen has never seen, something between starlight and sorrow. The chamber holds its breath as the Archon lowers himself to one knee before the human chef. "We built temples to complexity," says Velis, his voice carrying the weight of confession. "We elevated technique over intention. We measured greatness in rarity and spectacle, forgetting that nourishment begins with care." He raises his head, meeting Owen's eyes. "We destroyed the roots while praising the flowers. For this, the sanctum offers its deepest apology." The council erupts. Half the delegates rise in protest, the other half in solidarity. Inquisitor Wraith trembles, her scales cycling through confusion and rage, but Keeper Nomis kneels beside the Archon, then Ambassador Thren, his crystalline body chiming softly as he lowers himself. One by one, council members descend from their tiers. Hera kneels, pulling Zira gently down beside her. The child's freckles pulse with patterns of understanding beyond her years. Across the chamber, delegates who built careers on dismissing human cuisine now face the empty foundation beneath their expertise. Owen stands alone in a sea of kneeling figures, a whisk still in his hand, an omelette cooling on a white plate. He does not feel victorious. He feels tired and sad and aware that Elena should be here to see this. She would know what to say. She always did. "Please stand," says Owen finally. "This doesn't require kneeling." Archon Velis rises, and the council follows. His robes shift to a color of determination, deep green threaded with gold. The sanctum will convene an emergency session. The integration accords will be reviewed. Earth's culinary archives will be rebuilt, funded by the council itself as restitution. "And the barbarism charges," says a Vryn delegate, voice small. "Dismissed with prejudice," says Velis. "Furthermore, Station Helix vendor registration 729 will be reclassified. Owen Blake is hereby recognized as Master Keeper of Earth's culinary heritage, with all rights, privileges, and protections afforded to cultural preservation officers." Owen blinks. "I just want to cook breakfast." "Then cook breakfast," says Keeper Nomis, smiling for the first time. "But let us learn why it matters." Inquisitor Wraith approaches slowly, her scales muted to a humbled pewter. She does not apologize with words. Instead, she reaches toward the omelette, hesitates, then looks at Owen for permission. He nods. She takes the smallest portion, places it carefully in her mouth. Her entire body goes still. When she speaks again, her voice breaks. "I taste my mother's hands," says Wraith. "I thought I had forgotten." Zira tugs Owen's sleeve. "You will teach me?" she asks again, hope bright in her luminous eyes. Owen looks down at the child who called his cooking murder an hour ago. He sees his own daughter's curiosity in her face. "Yes," says Owen. "I'll teach you." The chamber erupts in applause that sounds like rain. The food court of Station Helix has not changed its architecture, but something in the air tastes different. Owen arrives before dawn as always, unlocking his stall with the same key he has used for 3 years. The griddle hums to life, familiar and patient. He sets out his tools, whisk, spatula, bowls arranged in order of use. Muscle memory older than thought. But he does not cook alone anymore. Zira arrives first, her small hands already washed, her apron comically oversized. Hera stands behind her, no longer hovering with distrust but watching with the careful attention of a parent, recognizing her child's passion. 3 Vryn scholars arrive next, their crystalline notebooks ready. Then a Sok youth, Ambassador Thren's apprentice, eager to understand sustenance beyond osmotic absorption. Senna, a young station engineer who used to avert her eyes when passing Owen's stall, now asks permission to observe. "I want to learn the language my grandmother forgot," says Senna. Owen cracks eggs into a bowl, demonstrating the angle, the gentle confidence required. "It is not about the eggs," he says, voice quiet but clear. "It is about being present for what they become." The students watch his hands, the rhythm he maintains. Zira mimics his movements with her own small whisk, her freckles glowing concentrated amber. When she incorporates the air too roughly, Owen places his hand over hers, slowing the motion. "Patience over speed," he says, echoing Elena's words. "You are not conquering, you are helping." Across the food court, vendors who once mocked him now nod in greeting. Kavik brings Owen a container of spore flour, an offering, a bridge. The morning traffic flows differently. Delegates pausing at Owen's stall not to sneer but to smell, to remember, to wonder what they have been missing. The sanctum's reforms move slowly, as institutional change always does. But Keeper Nomis visits weekly, documenting techniques, recording oral histories, building the new archives one recipe at a time. He brings fragments of the old codex, comparing Owen's methods to faded descriptions, weeping when they align. Archon Velis himself appears one morning, unannounced, carrying a small case. Inside rests a set of tools, ancient and revered, once belonging to the founders themselves. "These should be used, not displayed," says Velis, placing them on Owen's counter. Among them, a whisk, whose balance feels like coming home. Inquisitor Wraith returns monthly, silent and humbled, eating whatever Owen prepares. She never speaks during these visits, but her scales have regained their color, settling into a soft, grateful bronze. On the anniversary of Elena's death, Owen makes her favorite, a simple omelette with herbs from the box beneath his counter. He sets it on the altar he keeps in the back corner of his stall, her picture beside it, her smile captured in fading pixels. Zira stands beside him, holding his hand. "Does it get easier?" asks Zira. "No," says Owen. "But cooking helps me remember why love matters." The food court hums with morning chaos, 1,000 worlds colliding. But at one small stall at the farthest edge, a human chef teaches the galaxy something it had forgotten. That nourishment begins not with complexity, but with care. Not with conquest, but with presence. Not with spectacle, but with the simple, revolutionary act of feeding someone as if they matter. Because they do. And sometimes that truth tastes like a perfect omelette, folded 3 times, made with butter and patience, and the belief that even the smallest act of love can shift the stars themselves.